Hey everybody, this is Rustin, aka Quasi Mojo, with Mojo Radio and the Examiner, and with me, legendary, at least to my thinking, bass player Ricky Phillips of the Babies, Bad English, Styx, Coverdale Page, and more other projects than I can name. How are you doing, brother?
Rustin, I'm great. I like that. What a great introduction. I feel important all of a sudden.
Well, I mean, it's funny. Your resume is, for being as little known to the masses as you are personally, your resume is more impressive than some of the big names out there that everybody knows. So,
well, yeah, thanks. I mean, I think I used to call it playing the Hollywood Shuffle, just to kind of stay alive and keep moving forward in this crazy business. You got to wear a few hats, and I've tried on just about every size there is.
Absolutely, and I want to talk about many of the projects you've been involved with. And I know you guys are touring the East Coast this week with Styx. Are you guys concerned about Hurricane Irene? How much has that messed you guys up?
Yeah, man. I was going to call you in earlier, and we're kind of dodging some bullets here. We had a show canceled tomorrow night because it's outside of Boston and right in the path. I'm actually in the path right now, but we're going to jump on the bus here in a couple hours and head a few miles away. We're still in Pennsylvania, which, as I've got the TV on in the hotel room, every channel's got, talking about Hurricane Irene. So it's heading here this evening. But yeah, we're here, so we're going to do shows where we can and dodge the ones we can't.
Yeah, Styx has got to be the most prolific live band I have ever seen. You guys are just nonstop. Nonstop. You guys just finished.
We're a bunch of hams, is what we are.
You guys.
We're a bunch of musicians who also are hams, and we get up there and we actually try to do things on stage every night to throw the other guy off, make the other guy laugh, but basically really just push the music to every night to whatever limits or standards we have on any given night. It's important to us, and we dig it, and we love the reaction we get from the crowd. That's kind of what we feed off of.
Absolutely. I've seen you guys countless times live. As a matter of fact, I think the last time, though, was in Phoenix at Alice Cooper's Christmas Pudding a few years back.
Oh, my gosh. You were there when I blew out my Achilles tendon on stage that night.
I was.
And was rushed to the paramedics took me to the hospital. I remember the next morning getting on a plane, and Don Felder from the Eagles and Danny Serafin, the original drummer from the band Chicago, who had done the show with us the night before. It was like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. They were helping me get on this little private jet so I could fly back to L.A. for surgery. Yeah, that was a momentous night. You were there. Wow. I didn't know that.
I was. Actually, I'm also from Northern California like you are. I even spent a little bit of time at San Francisco State like you did. So.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding. The old alma mater. San Francisco State, where Frank Lloyd Wright made the statement as he took around a look at the campus and said, well, plant a lot of trees and pray.
Yeah. The difference between you and me, though, is when you were growing up, your family was busy playing music. My dad was in front of the TV worrying about the Zodiac Killer and Watergate. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You're right.
But, well, let's talk about your storied history in music. Two of my longtime favorite albums are still Union Jacks and On the Edge. I don't think the Babies... Yeah, and I don't think the Babies as a group ever got their just dues from the masses. Was that part of the reason for the band's demise, do you think?
I think so. In the end, felt like we were pushing a rock uphill, and we would, every time we would do the next record, we thought, well, this one will definitely do it, and we'd go out and we'd tour it. We've laid blame in all kinds of directions, but for whatever reasons, the dots didn't connect, and so we decided to throw in the towel, and Jonathan, of course, went immediately off with Journey.
Right.
And I started doing sessions. John Waite started a solo career and got himself a #1 song with Missing You, and both Tony and Wally ended up going straight over to playing with Rod Stewart for a number of years, and everybody ended up doing quite well. Jonathan and John and I started another band called Bad English years later, but I think all of us have that sort of, it's kind of like your first girlfriend, man, and that's the soft spot. That band was where it was all a bunch of brothers on stage just having a good time and wine, women, and song kind of a time.
Absolutely. And I know when you first tried out for the band, it was sort of an impromptu thing. I think you were working in a record store or music store, and you.
I was working in a music store, yeah. Yeah, I was, man, and I just got lucky because a guy saw me play. When I first got to LA, I auditioned for this band that was kind of happening at the time, and they were doing 2 shows a night at the Starwood, and they'd sell out. And it was this guy, Timmy Delane, great songwriter, singer, and I happened to be seen playing with Timmy by the sound man and the Babies, and he brought. He saw me working on his music store. I said, I've been looking for you, mate. Can I bring over John Waite? So they came over and asked me to walk across the street and audition. And I'd been seeing, some of my heroes going in there and auditioning. And I thought, man, if they're not getting this gig, I was scared. Let's just put it that way. I was really not confident to walk in and blow them away if the guys that I'd been learning everything I knew from were not making it. So. I just fit for whatever reason I fit and gelled, and we sang and we played, and next thing I knew I was on the road, and it was a great time.
So what was going through your head when you went in and did that audition and actually got the gig?
You know what? I think what happens is with any musician, I'd spent a lot of time on the road, and I'd played every, as I always say, zip code E-I-E-I-O in the country, and bars across in whatever state you name it. And by the time I hit LA, I'd kind of done my rock and roll graduate work. And so what happens is you walk into a situation like that and you are enamored with the people who are around you, but then the cloak falls to the ground and now you're left with your talent. And it's basically I remember the one thing I asked them, this one before we started playing, I said, you know what, I don't know this material, and I can't see Tony's foot, Tony the drummer and the Babies. And I said, do you mind if I just move over here a little bit so as we're playing I can see what kick pattern he's got? And I just kind of fell into what I did as a survival mode, and that seemed to trigger a spark with them that I had to, I was moving in the right direction, and Jonathan Cain and John Waite and I sang together, and that sounded good. So it was, all of a sudden, I was grooving, I was having a good time, and they left the room for about 15 minutes and came back with their manager and asked me to join the band.
That was it. And then after the Babies, you ended up getting involved in the Coverdale Page project. What was that like?
Actually, I didn't do that until after Bad English.
It was after Bad English?
Yeah, that was immediately. It was immediately after Bad English. But yeah, that was a crazy. Bad English had opened up for Whitesnake, and so David Coverdale had gotten to know me through that and called me up and said, "Look, this was at the point where Bad English had kind of come to its fruition, and we'd put out 2 records, and it just kind of, for whatever reason, a lot of the guys, we were all kind of seeing things differently. We'd all been friends way before. The Babies toured with Journey, so it's here you got mishmash of Journey and the Babies members into one band, and we'd known each other a long time, and we were good friends and long-time friends. And at a certain point, when nobody's listening to the other guy and everybody wants to kind of run the show, things begin to sort of unravel, and that's pretty much what happened. Everybody had a little different vision and what direction they want to go. It was only natural. So when we left, Coverdale called me up and said, "Hey, look, I don't want to be inappropriate, but I heard," we had the same management, and he said, "I heard through the office that Bad English is splitting up, and I'm going to do something with Jimmy Page. Do you want to come up and help us put some material together? We think it might be a super group. We're not really sure where we're going to go, but we need to get a bunch of demos done." So that's how it started. And then when they handed me a ticket to fly to Vancouver to start cutting the record, I was having so much fun at this point. It took us about 4.5, 5 months to get to the point where we're actually recording. And we had developed such a great rapport, and it was a real team. The way Jimmy works, and then of course the way David works, went really well together. Danny Carmassi on drums, who had always been a favorite of mine, original drummer from Montrose, and spent 10 years with Heart as well. Danny was a good longtime friend, and to work with him it was just firing on all cylinders there for me. I was every angle of it was a positive. I learned a lot doing that project and had a blast at the same time.
Right, and then of course, obviously, you already mentioned it several times that you reunited with Jonathan Cain after the Journey hiatus there, and you guys did Bad English. And I understand Neil Sean was kind of coming in and doing some of the guitar work for you, but he didn't even commit to the project till 2 minutes to midnight.
Yeah, till 0 hour when he thought we were gonna hire a great guitar player by the name of Andy Timmons from Texas, who we all loved and loved Andy's playing. We were trying to. He ended up going on and being the guitarist, one of the guitarists in Danger. Yeah, exactly. But Jonathan and I had been playing the guitar parts in the songs we were writing, and then Neil would come in and blow down some solos. And, he was determined. Journey had split up, so he was determined to do some solo work. His first time he'd been free, and so he kept saying to us, "Look, I am not going to do this. I can't." And I want to do a solo album, and I want to concentrate on my own work. And then, as I said, basically 0 hour when we had moved the project down to Los Angeles, Andy Timmons was actually staying with me at my house, and we were about ready to pop the question to him. We'd been working with him for a couple of weeks, and Neil walks in the door at our rehearsal room and basically put a flag on the play there and said, "I've been thinking about it, and I don't want to be left out of this. I want in." So it was one of those things where you've got one of your brothers from the past that you wanted to work with initially, saying he wants to be a part of it. So we couldn't say no. We certainly wanted him, and we knew how prolific he is as a guitarist and as a player, but he's also such a prolific part writer, and we knew the sound would fit and be appropriate, and there we were, off and running.
Right. Then the second album was sort of darker and less accessible to the masses. Why the change in sound? Was that sort of an impact on the band?
Very reflective of what was going on within the band. I think that's why that's my favorite album, even though there's all those hits off the first one. The second album, from a musician standpoint and from a player standpoint, man, it's dark, but there's so much beauty in its darkness because it's very real. I think less contrived, and there's a couple moments on that record that I think are very exciting musically. And the thing that bums me out, I guess, when I hear it, is that if we had stayed together, I can see how deep the band could have gotten. And instead of being one of those 80s faceless hair, everybody with the same haircut, tight jeans, and or spandex pants or whatever, all the music began to get so homogenized. If we could have moved more in a direction that Backlash had, I think that it would have evolved into something much bigger. But hindsight's 20/20. It's easy for me to say that.
Right. It always sort of goes that way. Now, few people seem to know about the Elements of Friction project, despite the big names attached. One of my favorite vocalists, Robin McCauley, Tommy Aldridge on drums. You even had David Glenn Isley in there for a little bit doing some stuff on it.
Yeah.
Tell me how that project came about and whatever became of it.
I did a record with a buddy of mine, Fergie Fredrickson. It's called Fredrickson Phillips. That was released in '95 or '6, and because of the success of that record in Europe, a gentleman by the name of Magnus Soderqvist from Stockholm called me up and said he was working with this company in Germany and wanted to know if I would do a record for them. And so basically I kind of handpicked the parts and started writing the record. In the end, it was one of those things where they had now gotten to the point where in Europe they were trying to follow a flavor of the month. And they started throwing songs at me that they wanted me to record. So it was about maybe a little more than 50% my material and then stuff that they had sent me. It watered the project down so that, to me, in my estimation, just to be critical on myself, I felt that it was a little bit disconnected. But, I did the best I could, I think, with trying to wrangle it and bring it all together. And it's interesting what people find that CD and reflect on it, because I get some, when people find it out, they'll send me these raving, glorious, thank you for I found this. This is amazing. I can't believe you guys weren't. But for me, it was just something. It was more of a project than a band.
Right.
I mean, I love Tommy. Tommy Aldridge, great drummer. Robin, a good friend as well. Lovely voice, amazing guy, amazing singer. And Marcus Nand, who is one of my very closest friends, is a guitar player from Spain. He's the kind of guy that when I would be working at 3 o'clock in the morning, he'd be sitting right next to the console, right next to the recording machine with me. He's a real team player and great guitar player.
Robin's still working doing the Survivor gig?
I think so. I haven't talked to Robin in a bit, but I think when they're out, he's doing that. I've noticed he's been doing a lot of all-star jam nights and things in L.A. as well. Great guy, super guy, great singer.
Well, speaking of Fergie, 10 years before you did the other project with him, you'd also done Band in Shame, right?
Yeah, wow, man. That was a very, very cool band. And amazing music, and I'm sad that didn't get its day. But Jeff Porcaro, who was a very dear friend of mine, was still alive, and Bobby Kimball had left Toto, and I got back from Germany, and we'd recorded the Abandon Shame project, and Fergie blew his mind when I played Jeff, and he said, "Oh my gosh, that's the voice. That he could be the next singer in Toto." And I'm like, "Jeff, that's my singer." And no, stay away. But I knew, I could tell by the look in his eye that he wanted Fergie, and they went through the process, of course, and
right,
and picked Fergie, and we went on and tried to find a singer. We found a great singer, and tried to move forward with the project. That project was so good initially, though, with Fergie and with Tim Pierce on guitar and Scott Sheets on guitar, Pat Torpey on drums, and myself on bass. It was such an interesting. We actually had Fergie. Herbie Herbert had flew down,
right,
from who was managing Journey since day one, and he brought us all in the room and said, "Look, I've flown down here because I just heard what you guys have recorded, and this blows my mind. I want to manage this." And so, I mean, we were very close to having what every band wishes, just out of the box. We had an amazing manager, and it's just one of those near misses. I think everybody's got the fish that got away story, and that's probably one of the ones that got away for me. I think that was a project that could have done, created its own sound, and had created its own. We've already proven what we could do, but we just, for some reason, couldn't get it across the finish line.
Well, and in a twist of irony, Fergie beat out Eric Martin for that gig. Torpey was in your band. The two of them end up getting together with Paul and Billy. Boom, Mr. Big. So.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's very incestuous, this business. But yeah, that was another. I'm a huge Eric Martin fan too. So
yeah, that blew my mind when Fergie beat him out. So
yeah,
but
there were a lot of people up for that gig.
Now, before we move on to Styx, of course, how's Fergie doing? I know he was diagnosed last year, I believe.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Fergie's doing really well. He is one of the few people who has responded to a new treatment, and it's kind of given him, bought him some time. It's given him a glimmer of hope and giving him a lot better quality of life. He's getting up in the day with energy, and yeah, man, talk to Fergie and you wouldn't even know that he had any kind of liver cancer or anything. I mean, he basically has responded where no one else has, and so he's become a little bit of a case study because of it. Yeah, thanks for asking. He's doing great right now.
That's absolutely awesome. So how did you come to be involved with America's greatest rock and roll band ever?
I think all the planets aligned, and I don't know if I'm the guy to really answer that properly, but from my side of it and the way it came across to me, I had met Todd Zuckerman, who has for many years has been the drummer since Johnny passed away in Styx. And Todd is an insane drummer for a bass player, very exciting to work with. And Todd and I had met doing sessions in Los Angeles, and I was always frustrated by the fact that he was in Styx because I wanted to work with the cat all the time. And we became good friends. And one day he called me up and he said, "What are you doing? I need to talk to you about something important." I said, "Sure, man, go for it." He goes, "Well, I need you to sit down. I really need you to not be doing something." I said, okay. And he said, "Listen, I didn't know it, but as you know, Chuck Panazzo's health is not at its best, and we need a solid bass player to be in the band, and I didn't know JY and Tommy had you at the top of the list, and they wanted to call you, and I asked if I could be the first one to call." So he said, "Tommy's going to call you in a second, but I need to know, I mean, are you even interested in being in a band and going on the road and everything that's involved in it?" And as he's talking about it, I'm absorbing it, and it took, by the time he was finished with the sentence, I was thrilled. I'd been working in my studio and really doing long hours on some projects I loved and developing things I was into, and some stuff that I wasn't, I was basically doing to pay for the studio. And I'd actually just recently had that private conversation within myself, that sitting in front of a computer screen by yourself creating music was not why I got into this business, and I really missed the playing days. So all of that sort of input to the universe must have come back, because the next thing I know, Tommy and I were talking, and one of his points was, "Listen, this is a lifestyle commitment, and the problem is not everybody can do it. And as a bass player, you're the guy we want. Are you the guy that will, we don't want any more members of Styx. We're done having members of Styx. We were keeping it to a bare minimum." And JY and Tommy had been meticulous about protecting Styx and had gone through a lot to do that. Excuse me. And so we jammed a conversation down of all the parameters and what was involved, and it all sounded great to me. And I've known the guys. I met the guys in 1979, and they've always had an amazing management setup. They've always had really good crew. They've always done everything, top drawer, top shelf, and it was a situation that I realized was something that just doesn't come along that often. Beyond the obvious fact that what you said, that Styx is this amazing band, but having been in bands with amazing, gifted players and worked with some of my favorites, I think the realization that this could really be something that I'd always been looking for, which was a group of guys that get it, know how to be in a band, how to protect it, and to respect the fellow player and listen as well as talk and create. So my answer was obviously a big resounding yes, and now here we are, just completing my 8th year and starting my 9th year with the band. It just doesn't even seem possible.
Right. And nice segue there on the creative part, because it's been like 8 years since Styx released an album of new material. Now that you guys have been together so long, are you guys planning on doing more studio work?
We've actually had Terry Fryer, who is a Grammy award-winning writer and gifted producer, and we're trying to kind of put together an in-house situation so we can do that. Terry's been to each of our home studios, and what we're trying to do is, we've all been writing nonstop, so we've amassed some pretty good material. And what we're trying to do is figure out a way, because we're a touring entity and because we're on the road 200 days a year, and you do need some time off when you travel that much.
Right.
How can we do this and do it really for the right reasons? Do it for us, not for a record company, not to please radio station programmers, but just create music. And we are trying and have been researching ways to do this so that a lot of us can do the tedious work in our home studios on our own time so that we can move forward. But there's no date schedule, there's no time schedule, because we are still on the road, and this has been a very busy year. We've been in Europe.
Right.
We've been in Canada. We've toured with Yes this year. We've done an awful lot of work, so we're trying to figure out a system so that the part that seems to be the one petal of the flower that doesn't seem to be getting any attention or water is the writing process. And so as we all do it on our own time, we're figuring out a way that we can do it as a band.
Awesome. Yeah, I know everybody loves the Styx catalog, but they're waiting for another great Styx album, and as a lineup, you guys haven't had a chance to produce one yet, so we're all looking forward to that.
Yeah, for me it's frustrating because here I am in this incredible band, and I haven't been able to, display my writing chops, or although I've played on, Regenerations Volume 1 and 2, and that's nice. And we had one new song on Volume 1.
Right.
We also had a DVD out which had some new material on it that we did with the Cleveland Youth Symphony. But a CD just dedicated to being in the new Styx album, I still haven't done. So that's a notch I'm looking forward to.
Well, I know Tommy released a bluegrass album this year. Are you working on anything outside of Styx right now?
I actually am, but I hate to even say that because it'll probably be 10 years before it's finished the way we keep working. I have gotten to the point where I've got about 35 song ideas in some scratch form, either just me singing with an acoustic guitar or keyboard or garage band on my computer or something. Now I basically have to chisel down which ones I'm going to try and tackle first, but it's going to take forever. I've been wanting to do this for some time, and I just figure if you keep moving forward, it'll eventually get there. But having the time as a producer, I don't accept work anymore. I'm basically every band that's called me, I've just said, you know what, you'll be so disappointed because it'll take you forever to get your record done if you depend on me. And I'm kind of saying that to myself right now. If I had somebody else producing it, which might be a way to go. Actually, a buddy of mine, Bruce Turgan, who used to play bass with Foreigner and did a lot of the solo projects with Lou Gramm.
Right.
I really love his production, and he's a great bud, and I might throw it in his court, and we discussed him producing something just so that it gets finished. But I definitely want to do it because it's a part of me that I've got to satisfy as well.
Well, you spend so much of your time caught up in music. What do you like to do beyond music?
Well, man, I love golf. Golf has been something I used to play with my old man, even when he and I didn't see eye to eye growing up as a kid. We could always bury the hatchet by throwing the sticks in the trunk and going to the golf course, and even if we didn't say much to each other, we'd still have some sort of camaraderie with whatever bumps that we may have been going through. But I've carried that on into my adult life, and on the road it's just been kind of a saving. It's been an oasis to be out on green grass and taking a walk and smacking the little white ball. But I'm also love I guess guitar collecting isn't away from the music, but I'm always kind of keeping my eye out for guitars. I love guitars.
Right.
I love red wine and have always been not necessarily a collector of wine, but I enjoy discovering and finding different regions of the world and the wines and the process behind it. And I have been to a few wine salons. I sort of enjoy the kind of the laid back beauty of what it takes to create. And I kind of love the analogy that they used in that movie, what's it called? Not Always. I'm blanking on the name of the movie, but anyway, the whole premise was to compare life in general, to the nurturing and growing of the grapes to create a wonderful wine, and what's involved in how, if that grape is picked on any day, influences how it will end up. And so that's kind of always been sort of a little passion, I guess, on the side. I grew up in Northern California, which is wine country, so I'm sure that it comes from that. And other than that, I have good friends. I love to go out and have nice dinners and hang with my friends, and try and catch up. That's kind of like a vacation when I get to go home and hang with friends.
Well, I've stolen you for a good half hour here, so just for fun before we get out of here, favorite baby song?
I just last night sent Jack Blades and I and a few guys are going to do a charity event coming up, and because I'm not going to be able to be there on the first day because I'm touring, we decided we'll do a Styx song, and then I threw them a live version. One of the past drummers in Foreigners gave me a bootleg of us playing live in Cleveland, and I happen to have that on my computer, so I shot him off Midnight Rendezvous and Head First, and either one of those songs probably are my favorite when it comes right down to it. Some of the songs that I wrote, like In Your Eyes and Union Jack, and let's see, a song called Postcard,
right,
I always really liked. Some of the more obscure songs, gosh, I'm going to name too many here if you let me just keep going, because one will remind me of another one. Darker Side of Town, which is a song Kane and John Waite wrote, just tears me up when I hear that. I think it's a song never got any airplay whatsoever, but man, I'll tell you what, if you talk about feeling the moment and being inside the music, that song is 100% right there.
Yeah, there are a lot of songs on that On the Edge album where the emotion is just so plaintive. It's just there calling to you. And that album happened to come out when I was breaking up with the love of my life when I was younger, and
oh, great!
It was just you can bet "Turn and Walk Away" was on my CD player.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, how about Bad English?
Well, that's easy for me. I think Bad English. I'm real appreciative of the first record and how well it was received, but Time Stood Still is something I was a big part of writing, and although that album was never really properly released in the States, it was released in Europe, and that song went to number one in a few countries in Europe, and got a lot of airplay, and that was the direction I was hoping we would start moving in, which was a little bit more different and unique and away from the flavor of the month rock band formulaic sound that we'd started. So that one's easy for me. Time Stood Still is definitely my favorite song.
And then, of course, Styx. It's got to be hard to pick, but
it changes. The Styx songs change because initially, when I first discovered Styx, and I did shows with them in '79, you're hearing big songs, and I liked Grand Illusion and Renegade, and I Blue Collar Man is such an easy please. It's a great song. Fooling Yourself is one that always kind of went to the top. It was kind of the cream of the Styx songwriting, and Fooling Yourself is one of those sleeper sort of songs that you don't immediately think of when you think of Styx, but when you hear it, the way the crowd surges every night when we begin that song, you can tell that it has a special place for all of them. And it's so well crafted as a piece of music. It's written, it's almost perfect. It's an incredible melody and an incredible message hidden within odd meters, which it's not a 4/4 song. And usually those are the songs that confuse people, and people go, "Oh, this is too bizarre, or too prog for me." But that song kind of, because of its perfection, has people don't even realize that you're kind of being taken through a few time changes.
Yeah, excellent. One of my all-time favorites. You know, I'm just so fortunate you had time to talk to us today. I know things are crazy out there on the East Coast with Hurricane Irene, and I certainly appreciate it.
Got it, bro.
Seeing you when you're
Thanks
back
for a good
in town.
interview.